for you?
C'est tout.
Okay.
It would probably be bass.
You stepped out of a dream.
My dad plays electric bass. For 2 weeks, I was a part of a program where I played upright, and I really enjoyed it, but I felt like I didn't have, the same feel or the same, I don't know. I really wanted to be great at it, but I realized it was gonna have to take a lot of time. So yeah, I would want to play upright and electric.
Away from the crowd.
When I was in middle school, I was given the role of Willy Wonka. And so here I am, 12 years old, singing, come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. And I guess I was kind of shocked by the fact that, it's a school play, so we have like these crazy costumes, but all the parents were really excited, and the students as well. And so that's, I guess, when I felt like, oh, maybe I'm different, in this way, and the way that I sing resonates with people. Everything was in the house. My mom kind of introduced me to Luther Vandross and Stevie Wonder and Aretha Franklin. And my dad, he grew up very kind of strict, in the gospel kind of genre. He grew up, he was in church playing, at all times. I think that's how he learned to pick up the bass so quick, was because he had the opportunity to play in church and play alongside his family, my grandparents. But I listened to everything. Well, my dad had this iPod that he would let me use, and it had like just an insane hard drive and memory of like so much music. Something I can remember playing on repeat would probably be, there's this George Duke song called Images of Us that I really loved. Let me see. Luther Vandross and another singer named Cheryl Lynn, If This World Were Mine. I would listen to Jill Scott, I would listen to James Brown, so I don't know, there was a lot of stuff on repeat for me, but those are a couple I can think of off the top of my head.
Only a dream to me you were.
Well, probably it would be jazz, because I didn't grow up listening to it, and so I didn't really start to, I guess, find my voice until I got to college and I was introduced to this music I never heard before, and it's like, oh, I never knew that, the voice could be used in this way. And so listening to Sarah Vaughan for the first time, it made me realize like I have a lot to learn. Because of the music that I was listening to, kind of that inspired this album, all of the records had collaborative effort from all of the musicians. It wasn't like, a record like with strings, for example, where it's like you just know it's an orchestra and you don't have all of the names. It's like, okay, this is a unidentified, I think the only person that's named on some of those like jazz with strings recordings is the conductor, or the arranger. But when you see a record by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, you see everybody's name on the cover because they all contribute to it. Like, I don't know if Art Blakey wrote any of the compositions. It was the front line, the like Freddie Hubbard and Wayne Shorter and Curtis Fuller. And so why not have the cover be representative of the effort put into the album? And with this album, I specifically said to all of the arrangers and composers and the band, if you're arranging something, I want you to arrange it the way that you see it, the way that you envision it sounding, and we'll all orchestrate it to the best of our ability. So
With wings.
I believe so, yes. And I'll say that each album is a genuine picture of me just in that moment, kind of like, with anything. So the first record, for me, I sound a little immature and a little hesitant and just new, you know, because I had never really been in the studio before that album. And so I can hear that, and that's genuinely me at that time. Second album, I had a little bit of touring under my belt, and so I felt a little bit more confident, but still quite new, and to the experience of recording in the studio and being in booths and being separated from the musicians after being on stage so close. And so now this record comes 2 years after the second album, and I feel like I've grown so much and been able to really picture what I want musically and communicate that to people when I didn't really know how to do that on the first album. And so I think this album is the most genuine and the most accurate picture of who I am right now. And who knows what the next album, what version of myself I'll become, you know.
Stars above could never compare.
Yeah, that's another part that I love about being in this band, is the fact that everybody listens to different music. So I never listened to Sun Ra before, kind of having this band. I never listened to Mingus. I hadn't really thought of composing for myself before starting this band. So I was introduced to Mingus by the tenor saxophonist on the album. And that song, it took me about a year to try to write lyrics to, just because I was trying to learn the melody. Because I was like, at some point I was like, why am I doing this to myself, you know? Because it's really difficult, and it's not, the intervals, the way it's set, it's not made for singers. It wasn't written for vocalists, but it's so lyrical, and it tells us such a beautiful story on its own, that I wanted to try to see if I could do it, you know, and see if I could put lyrics to it, and see if it could be a unique part of my repertoire. Because, you know, after a while, I don't want to say every standard starts to sound the same, but it kind of has the same format, maybe the same theme or the same, you know, story. So I was like, where am I going to find unique repertoire that nobody else is doing, but I can introduce to other people as maybe a new way to, I don't know, a new song to sing, you know, in a different form, something for your ears, so that you can hear a different harmonic structure, different melody. And hearing that did it for me. So I'm really glad to have had, you know, band members pouring their individuality and, you know, their influences into the band. Sophisticated, but still singing with attitude and feeling. That's right. Raw emotion and power and confidence.
No one.
Free-spirited creativity and completely individual.
That's no more.
Storyteller. Yeah. Operatic elegance and a range that is out of this world, a sensitivity to song that is out of this world.
Samara Joy!
I feel like I only felt the pressure more recently with this project. When I first kind of experienced the awards and winning them, I was just shocked that it happened. You know, I don't know if I was even thinking like, and maybe that I felt some pressure to be a part of a different world than I was in, instead of being a performing artist, just being like visible all the time and showing up at different events and just kind of interacting with a different group of people. But I'm glad I had the opportunity to go back on the road and refocus, because I don't know if I would have formed this band and felt confident enough to pursue it, even with hesitation around me, if I hadn't built up the strength to just refocus on my purpose. So yeah, this project is one that I truly believe in, and I'm really glad that I'm not considering it the follow up to anything that I've done. It's just the next step. Yeah, there are a few. There's like Miles Davis and Gil Evans. I think it's Miles plus 19, which I really, that's one of my favorite albums. What else? There's a Carmen McRae one called Bittersweet that I really love. Abby Lincoln, Straight Ahead. There's a Max Roach record called Deeds Not Words that I really love. That's actually Spike Lee's father wrote. Yeah, Bill Lee, he wrote that song. It's beautiful. Yeah, I have a few. That's why I'm like, okay, I've listened to it a bunch of times. I need to find something, something now. To Pimp a Butterfly is definitely one of them. Kendrick. Gospel albums, I really like John P. Key and Fred Hammond and the Clark Sisters, Kirk Franklin. I went to go see them in concert about a month or so ago in Brooklyn, in New York. Yeah.
I'm through with all my